Call the meeting to order. All councillors and mayor in attendance. Additions to the agenda, I think we have a couple. Is that correct?
Through Mr. Mayor, that is correct. We would request of council that 10.6 social media concern and action be moved to the front end of the agenda to support some of our audience.
Okay.
Sorry. I also have a report 7.7, which is a capital budget amendment, culvert and road repair emergency financial funding request.
Okay, so we'll move 10.6 right after the adoption of the minutes after 6.1. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. Okay, 4.0. A correction. Can I get a motion for the amendment to the agenda? Councillor Longstaff?
I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. Adoption of the minutes from June 23rd, 2026. Anybody note any errors or omissions in those agenda items? Myself, I did not. Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor St. Germain.
I move that we adopt the minutes.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. Alrighty, the agenda item that's been moved up there, social media concern and action. Councillor Curry.
Okay. I know I've already put out statements and apologies on social media, but I wanted to step up and do this in person here. I feel that's always proper and best. So a couple weeks ago, I got myself involved in a little back and forth, battle of wits, we'll say, on Facebook. Some guy I didn't know, he said something to me, and rather than doing the right thing and just ignoring it, I made the decision to engage, and I fired back, and we had a back and forth. It was inappropriate and immature, to say the least, and I take full ownership of my part in that. I take a lot of pride in being someone that this community looks to for leadership, especially from the youth. I want to be someone who brings integrity and honor to this town the way many before me, the likes of Jeff Jones, Maisie Metronuk, Graham Drinkle, Ron Coley, Bill Nimmo, and so on, have always brought. They set the bar high, and I fell way below that bar in that moment. So to all the people that I love and care about, that's my team here, everybody here, my friends and family, and this great community, I am sorry, and I promise to be better moving forward and to strive harder to reach that bar. I do appreciate the tremendous amount of support from everyone, and I thank you all for that. So with that, we will move forward here.
Excellent. Thank you, Travis. Can I get a motion to accept Travis, his statement as information, please? Morrison?
I move we accept Councillor Curry's statement as information and really honestly a lovely apology, Travis. Not required, but very, very, very lovely apology.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. All right, finance 7.1. Oh, sorry. Mr. Duhamel?
Through Mr. Mayor, it was brought up and rightfully so by the official administrator that we made a statement that was endorsed by council. And she mentioned that the statement itself should have had a motion and just a recognition of acceptance of that statement as we move forward. And so I would ask that there be a motion just to mention the statement from council and a motion to approve that as well.
Okay, can I get a motion in regards to the statement that was issued by council? Yeah. Council Morrison?
I move that we also accept the statement with regard to social media that was made by council as well.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. What was it? Oh, sorry, I thought I said, and one opposed? One opposed? 6-1. Okay, finance 7.1, corporate services monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I've put together the June corporate services and finance report for review. Couple quick highlights, I guess, is updated balances for the bank accounts and the loans and lines of credits are included. We've got our financial report for June. I won't go too heavily into detail on that as we are going to do the Q2 report in a little bit more detail for you guys, so we'll kind of jump over that. Capital projects right now, everything's still in the works, but nothing really gone too far. We're hoping to have the vac truck purchase finalized shortly here, so we'll see some progress on that shortly. Assessment and tax update there. Won't be much change outside of reporting on the balances. Everything's kind of done for the year outside of continuing to go on the collections. And then my next major project, I guess I would say, is getting all the tax agreements updated for the tax arrears properties. So that'll be in the works and coming up sooner than later here as well too. Utilities balances are in there as well too, a very modest $16,000 that's currently in arrears as of June 30th, so in a really good spot there. As you'll see later on in the agenda, there's the library services agreement draft for us to review, as well as the second and third readings of the refinance bylaw. Next big steps outside of the tax agreements is, believe it or not, we'll be kicking off the 2027 budget procedure starting sooner than later here, so we'll start to see that process continue from there. Any questions or anything before we jump into the Q2 reporting? Yes.
Yeah, we need a motion to accept the second quarter financial report as information. Councillor Longstaff?
I move that we accept the corporate services monthly report as information.
Any further questions? All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Second quarter report.
Excellent, thank you. So the next big step of the financial reporting that we wanted to try and bring in a little bit more depth is our quarterly reporting, which is where we get into some significant variance analysis, some forecasting, and some looks ahead at what the rest of the year looks like. So at a high level, if you look at the page 5 of the report, that's our corporate total report for the revenue and expense by object, including our forecasting. So As you'll see in there, we've got currently a forecast to year-end surplus forecasted of just over $176,000. Now, we've got some pretty conservative guesstimates in there. We've got some hopeful guesstimates in there, but for the most part, they're conservative. So there is some upside expected that I don't feel comfortable putting in here, but things that we're working on cost controls to maintain and continue to hold ourselves accountable as a municipality to ensure that what we committed to finance wise is what we're going to hold ourselves to. So at a high level, I've got some variance overview. The one big thing that I'll speak to off the hop on the actuals is obviously sitting at a $4.7 million surplus as of right now is very misleading in that all our tax revenue records in May and most of the expenses haven't hit and or are to come. So year-to-date actuals are pretty tough to look at, but I'd encourage you to look more at our forecast to year-end numbers in the columns to the left side there, where we do sort of an annual. So we've got our 2026 total budget, our forecast to year-end, and then the variance for that, as well as a sort of a monthly, I guess, or a month or a year-to-date type side where we forecast out the budget to current month, look at the 2026 actuals, and then look at the variance versus expected spend from there. So it's that's how it's broken out, is we've got sort of an annual look and then a year-to-date look on the right-hand side of it there. So I guess I can go through some of these. There are some areas that we've worked really hard at maintaining controls around. Specific areas for that are goods and supplies, repairs and maintenance, contracted services, that kind of thing. So you'll see some areas that we've forecasted some cost savings or underspend in those areas. That may or may not change as we get into Q3 and start to review some of our parked items a little bit closer, but that's something that the CAO is very, very tightly controlling and very closely looking at as the expenses come through. What else? Let's go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor and Council, one of the key things that we committed to at the beginning of this journey was to reset the budget, develop a financial plan, one that was realistic, but also one that we could maintain control and certainly look at from a long-term financial planning perspective. And so basically this budget is the beginning of a reset for finance in the town of Gibbons. Not only is this budget accurate, it is actually one that we consider, again, controllable. And so putting a plan together on paper is just the start. What's probably equally important and maybe even more important is the continual management of cost and the way that we spend funds. And so there isn't a day, and again, the people to my right, Ryan, and again, Tara, have been working very hard on providing me with data on a daily basis in relationship to decisions that we make around spending. I have to give the staff a lot of credit as well. As we developed a financial plan, that meant also impacts on services. And like anything, you can anticipate when you're developing a plan, but you can't anticipate everything. And so there have been challenges from a service delivery perspective. There has been challenges from a staffing perspective in terms of the type of the work that they've been doing. And if anybody hasn't noticed, we've had a bit of rain this year, which has also caused us a lot of operational challenges and issues as well. But when I look at numbers, one of the things that I find incredibly important when I'm looking at a quarterly report is that the numbers tell a story from an operational perspective and action perspective. And so a long time ago, the numbers kind of started to change for me as a manager, where when I see the numbers, it doesn't necessarily represent just finance, or it represents things like how much money we're spending on asphalt, or how much grass we're cutting because we're seeing the fuel costs, or maybe challenges that we're having from a maintenance perspective because of water line breaks or whatever it might be. And that's reflected in this budget. The key thing that we committed to this council is that we would develop a plan, even if we have had emergent items and challenges, we had enough contingency within this budget that we can control and maintain staying on track with our financial plan. I think the key thing is that I don't want to steal Ryan's thunder, but but right now we are forecasting, from a practical perspective, a $200,000 surplus that we're tracking to right now. But from a controllable cost perspective, we're tracking towards possibly up to 400,000, which is again a significant difference for a municipality that has spent the last 4 or 5 years running up to a $2 million annual deficit. In addition to that, we are currently tracking towards our commitment of putting away $1 million to $3 million away in reserve by the end of this year as well, on top of our annual surplus. And so to say that we're resetting and putting ourselves into a position of success financially, I give you as council a lot of credit for the work that we went through to get to this point. It's only been a short 7 months, but the turnaround from my perspective, as somebody who's been in the business for 30 years, we're the official education provider for the Canadian Association of Government Finance Officers. We have CFOs in numerous municipalities now and CAOs in numerous municipalities. This is, I have to say, one of the bigger achievements I've seen in my career from a municipal government perspective. And so I think, the Q2 report is just halfway through the year. We still have a long ways to go. There's still a lot of things that could be challenging, but I think that this is the first sign of success. And again, we really welcome any questions from council. Again, as we mentioned, this is a start, not an end. We have reserves to replenish. We have utility rates to look at. We've committed to doing a 5 to 10 year plan on smoothing out our utility rates. We have issues from an asset management perspective we have to take care of, developing a long-term capital plan. We have reserve policies to create and start putting money away back into the pots that we need to make sure that this town can grow and be sustainable. But I think after again basically 6 months, again it's just the start. I have to say that as an administrator, I'm quite pleased with where we're at today. We're in a position that I think before was considered almost impossible. So well done. Again, there are some details that, again, we would welcome questions on if you have any questions. We committed to getting this work done for you because, again, one of the key things you asked for as a council was accountability and transparency. And from our perspective, this is basically a very, very strong opportunity to have provided that to you. For our public and for council and anybody that's watching online, what this report is, again, it's all online and open to, scrutiny from the public. It provides the public with our budget by department. It provides them with the actuals to date by department. And we've actually done a forecast to year end for each one of the line items in the budget to get to this point. So though you see the summary level of the detail, we've gone down to basically the object level, which means the nitty-gritty detail of every line item in the budget to come up with this forecast. So again, I have great confidence this is accurate. I have great confidence that we're running a surplus. And again, like I mentioned before, notwithstanding any big surprises, like maybe golf ball size hail, which is I think forecasted tonight, or other things. Sorry, that could come up. I think again it's a beginning, which is a very strong beginning from a financial sustainability perspective. And so, Ryan, again, or Tara, if you have any comments, I'll put you guys on the spot. But I just want to say well done to the team, the finance team, for the work that they're doing, and to the staff for the hardships they're going through as we start to rebuild basically our ability to deliver services.
Yep. So at a high level, just to kind of wrap up, I guess our explanation is we try to take a more of a divisional look on how we present the financial information. So it rather than showing all 34 departments separately, it shows, we summarize it. So corporate services, public works, parks and rec, that kind of thing. It just makes it an easier way to go through some of the data. So with that being said, if there's questions or any clarifications or anyone has anything that we want to look into, please feel free now. And if I don't have the answer readily available at this point in time, I will come back with it for the next council meeting.
This is fantastic. As somebody who's been looking at reporting for the town of Gibbons for about 3.5 years now, this is awesome. The couple of questions. Summary at the front rather is fantastic. and you're able to take the summary, and if you've got a question, you're able to get a little bit of narrative behind and each one of the departmentals. So absolutely love it. A couple of questions. On the summary, there's a line for requisitions, first line under expenses, and there's a variance of 105K, but yet I can't follow the requisitions through to the subs. So I want a little bit of an explanation as to
Sure.
what the requisitions are. So,
So-
question one.
Yeah, no problem. That I do have an answer for. So requisitions, we always just budget based on prior year requisition amounts, because they don't often get us the requisitions that they're going to be asking for until partway into the new year, mostly on the school side, just because their fiscal year is different than ours. So we just budget based on the last year numbers, but knowing that it's a flow through. So you see actually a taxation amount at the top where the revenue side of the requisitions are. They don't fully offset because there's still some more little pieces in there, but they basically offset each other because requisition is just a flow through. So as we get higher requisition items that come in, we just bill for it higher through the taxation process. Correct.
Why do I need a mic? I'm loud. It's really just a placeholder for your offset as opposed to an actual departmental
Correct.
cost. Okay, cool. Second question is under the user fees, basically the entire variance between budget and forecast to end year all is almost equally split between parks and recreation and utilities. So where is that sort of, and it's not significant in either department, but overall.
I'd have to dig in to specifically identify the items. Some of them are just things that we budgeted for at the start of the year, like utility changes, for example. We budgeted for that as of January 1st with the offset to being on the reserve transfers. Now, we weren't able to get the utility rates bylaw done until June, I think it was here last month. So the rates aren't effective till July 1st. So we're expecting that to come in slightly under. I'm trying to remember what the other major one was. They said it was rec, right? What did I have for notes in there?
Sorry, Councillor Morrison, you do have to use your microphone so our viewing public can hear you.
My apologies again. Page 28 of the Q1 reporting, and it is Parks and Recs. That just call it 23K under the user fee.
I think from what I remember, now this is just high level, is when I was looking through those, we had some user fees that were coming in lower than where we had them budgeted originally. Part of that, I think, was due just to the uncertainty of what we were doing as a town, as well as, we had some challenges in how we were going to operate the arena, how we were going to operate the gym, for example, too. So I think Tim has something to.
Through Mr. Mayor and Council, one of the key things is we shut the arena down over the summer months this year and have allocated basically a back end of the revenue where we've looked at basically filling up more ice time over the winter months. And so basically there's this lull that we normally don't have. And so basically our budget pattern codes where we would code the dollars probably needs a little bit of repair as we're learning about our new operational way of doing things. And so I think the change in operations, again, because we shut the arena down, which has never been done before, is just moving the revenue to a different time period. And again, we may not have changed our budget pattern codes within our reports. So that's probably the reason.
A little bit more of a statement than anything else. The observation, rather. The budget to actuals to this point, for the fact that you walked in brand new, and all of the fluctuation and changes that have occurred, I think that the fact the variations are so minor. And where they are a little bit larger, they're easily addressed. I think my hat's off to you, in all honesty.
Thanks. And just further to what Tim was mentioning as well is, as we continue to build this out, we've been using the forecasting and the spend patterns for the last 5 years, but this year alone has been drastically different. So as we get more years of the revised operations, it obviously gets a little bit easier to accurately do our forecasting for our budget spending and that kind of thing too. So there will be improvements. I think I'd like to say that specifically, like over time, this gets more and more accurate, but it's going to take time to get there for sure.
And again, I was waiting for the question. I think may help answer your second part is also from a utility perspective. For some reason, we can't figure out why, but people aren't watering their lawns this summer, so that's caused a bit of a change also that I think is should be noted. Um, well, we were waiting for that one, so I think that's one of your questions was why the shift in utilities as well is again water, but a water cost when you have a lack of revenue, it's also offset with we're not buying as much water as well.
Just a question, I guess. We're into this now about 7 months. It's been quite a shift for the employees that are here. How is the buy-in from the employees right now?
Through Mr. Mayor, whenever you have a change like this, it is a culture shock to the staff, and we've recognized that. And I think maybe Jody Brown could speak to this as well. Jody and I have had a lot of conversations about this. I'll be frank, it's been hard on the staff, and buy-in has been, I think, on the most part, pretty good. But there's pockets of concern and issues. One of the ones primarily is, and I give the staff a lot of credit here, is concern and a bit of pushback on cutting back on services where there's a real want from the staff to continue the high level of services that they provided before, and one of the key things that we're trying to communicate to them is that there are things that we just can't do anymore. We want to rebuild over time back to those service levels, but again, I think that's been hard for the staff because they're proud of their work, and I will say this: in the short time that we've been here, we have found that the staff are very dedicated. They really care about the town. They've been very proud of the work they've done. So I think to answer your question, the buy-in is something that we're working on. It takes time. As a manager, as a CEO, numerous times now, there's always going to be ups and downs when it comes down to to corporate culture and staff challenges. But we're overcoming kind of a really dark time for the staff, and getting to know us in a different way of doing business has been difficult, no doubt. So, Jody, would you have comment on this as the director of operations?
Thank you, Tim, and through the mayor to mayor and council. So I would say that definitely I would echo Tim's comments, and I don't mean to sound like I'm just repeating what he says, but it is very much been a challenge, and I have often commented to the team that I think they should congratulate themselves on their resilience in working with us to get to this point. Many of them have taken on far more responsibilities than they had in the past, and have done so, without issue, and have done coming in on the weekend, coming in on the evenings. I know I was here on Sunday with a team trying to mitigate water problems with all the rain. So I think what we're trying to do now is focus on priority setting. So I have been meeting with the operations team throughout the week in each of the different areas to help them set priorities so that we can determine what they can actually get done in their 8-hour day. And so that's been the focus, to help support the staff in that way. And then looking where we can find efficiencies or any other ways to deliver services with the reduced staff capacity. And hoping and encouraging staff to bring forward their own ideas because they work on the front lines and they know where those efficiencies might be gained or where those operational gains can be found. So relying on their input has been really important, engaging them throughout the process to get their ideas and thoughts as well. So that's what we're doing right now to try and help get through this challenging time, until we're able to really determine where the gaps are and find strategies as to how we're going to fill them or change things. I hope that answers your question.
And maybe to finalize, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that we have to recognize, and certainly I do as the CAO, is that when we came in, we had to make some very difficult decisions. very difficult staffing decisions, and that meant, as everybody's aware, there's no hiding it. We had to lay off staff to be able to right size this budget to overcome a significant operational deficit that we had been running for years. To switch over now to what we call normal operations, it takes time, staff to build up trust again, because there's always this constant nervousness or fear. We're the same people that had to come in and make those hard decisions. And so I think it's going to take time to kind of build up that trust that's pretty typical between a CAO and staff and a leadership team and staff. But we're working towards that now. But of course, there's going to be some nervousness in a transition period, but I think we're well on our way.
Excellent, thanks. And I think, I'm not sure I can speak for the rest of them, and, us ourselves being new as well, I don't know, we know some of them by name, but I think it's time that we get together with them and bring in lunch for them and just thank them for all their hard work they're doing and stuff like that. So hopefully Mother Nature will ease up on us in September, perhaps, and everybody will have some time to get together, and we can formally meet the team.
Gibbons, but we'll try and see if that one works.
Councilor Brack?
I'm just curious what you mentioned earlier with the weather, and this is, I guess, to do with the finances as well. There is a big concern, I guess, with our infrastructure, but I haven't heard of any real big infrastructure failures or anything with these heavy rains. Is there anything that has come to light or anything like that? I mean, obviously we know we have some infrastructure issues, but is there anything that like really came to light during these floods?
I'd say from my perspective and just what I've seen, the biggest things is just the road challenges we're having, where we've had some roads that have flooded out and that kind of thing. But I don't know that that's, a pre-existing condition as much as it is just the fact that the volume of the rain is so much that it's identifying things that wouldn't have normally happened anyway. So there's a couple of those things. I think the one major area that we've identified off the hop anyways is the reservoir upgrades that we need to do. So getting that PLC board upgraded and just making sure that we reduce any risk of water system issues, I think is the biggest one that we've found thus far.
And is that upgrade everything that's all kind of worked into the...
That's the capital budget project, yep.
But if I may, one of the key things, we have had to deal with some road failures and potential road failures. You have a capital budget amendment that we're going to be bringing forward this evening. We have had a few issues with our water systems and water line breaks and finding we have maybe a lack of capacity in our storm ponds. But that said, I mean, this is not a normal year. So for us to say that we have a lack of capacity is under review. Equipment has been fine. There's been no significant issues. We had a boiler go in the public works area. But I will say, as again, former CEO of small municipalities, I've been in both big and large. I wouldn't say anything that would be beyond normal for a municipality of our size, and so typical stuff that we expected. Only difference being, again, is our lack of capacity for funding. But again, as we mentioned before, we're finding funding that is able and sufficient to be able to cover off the issues that we've experienced.
Excellent, thanks. Any further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Council Morrison.
I move that we accept the second quarter report as information.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. 7.4 tax reimbursement approval for 1544000. Yeah, 7.3. Oh, tax penalty reverse. My apologies. I was reading the bottom line. 7.3 tax penalty reversal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So one of the things that actually I've learned that's different than the way we normally do things is now this doesn't really apply to this, but just in general, any change, any reversal, any refund of money, even if it was a mistaken payment, requires council resolution for us to be able to refund based on how the MGA currently reads. As an accountant, I can express how much I disagree with this, but at the same time, we have to follow the rules. So one of the challenges that we had here was this seems to happen every year where we have all kinds of circumstances and things that happen on June 30th of the payment deadline date, where we're making all kinds of plans and arrangements, and documentation, as we all know, is slower than making the said arrangements. So one of these particular arrangements that we had made was to get an individual on the tax payment plan. So we wanted to settle up, get everything caught up to the point where they could go on that. But of course, without the documentation following, we aren't able to enable the window within the tax module to put them on the plan and exclude them from the penalty run. So they went through the penalty run, unfortunately, but not unexpectedly so. So in this case, we've got a request from administration to, as noted, honor the arrangement that we made with the taxpayer and reverse the penalty and have them go onto the tax payment plan from there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Longstaff?
My apologies, I never caught this when I reviewed the agenda, and I guess it was an easy miss. On here it says the end roll tax roll is 1373000, and it's on there twice, and on the agenda, but down at the bottom of the recommendation for action, it has 1373600. I'm just wondering if the 6 should be omitted, or is it supposed to be the 6?
The 6 is in there, yes. Yeah, so the motion is correct with the tax roll number there.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor Simonowitz.
I move that council approve the penalty reversal in the amount of $503.38 for tax roll 1373600 and direct administration to contact the property owner, advising them of the penalty reversal.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. 7.4 tax reimbursement approval, 1544000.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this one, the purpose of this request is to seek Council's approval to reimburse property tax overpayment made by the home builder following the sale of the property. So the home builder completed the build in February and the property was sold, and he was on the TIPS program as well. The new homeowner went on the TIPS program in March as well. So they were both paying property taxes. So the home builder has requested the repayment of his property taxes from March, April, May, and June. So he was paying $77.16 per month. So he's looking for a reimbursement of $308.64.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor St. Germain?
I'll make a motion that council approve the reimbursement of $308.64 for the property tax overpayment on tax roll 1544000 and authorize administration to process the reimbursement to the home builder.
Thank you. All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. 7.5 library service agreement draft.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is my last one for a bit here, I promise, so you won't have to listen to me talk for much longer until we get to the bylaw section here. So, as I committed to earlier, I believe in January, February it would have been, we wanted to rebuild the way that we performed the services for the library. And one of those was to get them into a point where they are maintaining their own operations, for lack of a better term. So, we've done this a couple times in a couple different municipalities. Basically, we have to draft a service agreement with the library, set up roles and responsibilities, build out kind of who does what, I guess, basically. So, we've done up a draft of the agreement. I've sent a copy over and gotten feedback from the library board as well. So we've kind of got a semi-finalized draft format, pending council's approval to proceed with execution of the agreement, we will pick a date for the turnover, whether that's August 1st, September 1st, I'm not sure yet. Have to figure out kind of the timing of everything, but then we would look to transition everything over to basically a municipal grant system, for lack of a better term. So the way that this works is rather than having the municipality complete the operating budget for the library actually does their own operating budget, brings it to council, presents it to council, and speaks to any variances or changes. We will continue to provide payroll for the library because they just don't have the facility or the ability to do that themselves. So that will maintain with the town, but everything else outside of our NLLS contributions, some town provided services will fall under the library's area of responsibility moving forward. So what this turns into is, a budget discussion, a deliberation, and then once we get everything approved and the operating budget's approved, we would provide them with a quarterly installment, I guess you could say, where over the course of January, April, July, and October, we give them a quarter of their grant over that period of time, and they then perform their own operations from there. So I guess what I wanted to do was bring the finalized draft form of the library service agreement before council in case there were any questions, concerns, or issues with the agreement. And if I can answer any of those, and if we're able to, then we'll look at taking the next steps and executing and setting a date for the agreement to go from there.
Were members of the library board instrumental in assisting you in putting this together?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
helping you,
Yeah. No, again, we've got templates for this. I sent it over to them for their comments on some of the specific operational items. So we've definitely worked together and quite well to get it done and get it in place. So it's taken longer than I wanted it to, obviously, with the viability review. But that being said, we wanted to basically be done with having this arrangement kind of formalized and in place ahead of the budget cycle. So we're hopefully meeting our deadline at that point in time.
Excellent, thanks. Any further questions? Councillor Saint Germain?
I have a question. It's on page 4. It says that library board is solely responsible for hiring, supervision, compensation. And then it says any salary or benefits due to these individuals shall be paid by the town in accordance with 3.6. So is it my understanding that we're paying that to the, like?
Correct. So there's two ways we can normally go about this. Town of Redwater, for example, we process the payroll on behalf of the library, invoice them, and they pay us back for the payroll. Kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing in a way, because in essence we are providing them with the grant funding for their employees, and then they are just paying us back. We kind of cut that process off by just processing the payroll directly through the town, so it sort of saves a step. But that being said, they do all the employment management for their employees, and they just give us basically the payroll to process.
Okay, so it's coming out of their budget. We just process it.
Correct.
My only
Yes.
concern is about equity. Like if
So they will do entirely everything on their own. So when they have to bring their budget to you guys to present to council as a whole, they will have salaries will be part of it, but they obviously won't get a grant fund for the salaries because we're just going to process and pay it on their behalf.
I have another question, if I may. So it says the library board will obtain quotes, such as coverages, any cost sharing discussions can be completed at that time. Should that not be done beforehand? Like, should that not be part of the agreement, or do I have it backward?
So that specifically speaks to any extra insurance that they require on their contents specifically. So because they're within our building, we pay for the liability and commercial insurance for the building. We also do have a contents insurance policy for the building, but if it's deemed inadequate for what the library has within their facility, because obviously they might have things that are quite higher value than the facility normally would, due to having the library, then any extra insurance we tell them is their responsibility unless we want to undertake some cost sharing discussions at that time.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Council Morrison?
Just from an employee perspective, the employees at the library are actually Town of Gibbons employees, but they work for the library. So the only caution or concern that I have within the agreement is that they're managing the employees, but they're actually still ours. So there should be some oversight there from just from a liability perspective or a layoff perspective, so on.
So yes, sorry. So that is the intent to change this is they are meant to be library employees. They're meant to be governed and managed by the library board. We aren't technically we're meant to be a payroll service provider for them because they are their own organization through the Libraries Act. So they're able to then manage their employees, do everything. We are just in essence providing payroll services for them after that. They won't be our employees anymore after.
Then in that case, they are not Town of Gibbons employees. So just
Yep.
because there's a difference and it doesn't read that well. Sorry, it doesn't read that way in the agreement. Like, in other words, I had to ask the question because it wasn't clear that they weren't town employees. Yes, we're providing the payroll for them, but are we providing the payroll for them under the Town of Gibbons payroll employer number? So then therefore, they are a Town of Gibbons employee. So I would caution that one.
If I may, just to provide maybe a little bit of clarity as to library and municipal relationships. Many years ago, there was a legislation called the Library Act. It's still in place. And then later, the Municipal Government Act basically encompassed the Library Act at a point where the governing act is actually the Municipal Government Act. So the library is still in a position because of the Library Act, and this is typical in all municipalities where libraries typically can strike a board. They can actually requisition on their own for taxation, but ultimately municipal councils make the final decisions on budget, finance, those types of things. It's kind of a best practice that we treat libraries with arm's length and we provide them with the due respect to their boards and allow them to essentially make recommendations to councils. We don't manage their staff per se on a daily basis, but there is complexity in this, and I've been through this before where there's confusion around, well, who's the boss, right? And who's the employees? From a logistical perspective, they're on like our payroll. We process their transactions, but because of the history, there is a sense of respect that they have their own board and we respect their autonomy as a library. And so we try to, for lack of a better way of putting it, allow them to just conduct their business and we kind of just stay out of it. But at the same point, council still has the ability to set their tax rates, govern, and if need be, make decisions on the library and basically their budget and their staff. But that said, from a best practice perspective, it's generally accepted that we allow them to, or not allow, but they have their own boards, and we basically they run as an arm's length entity. So it's basically they consolidate under our financial statements, though. Similar to utility operations in larger municipalities, sometimes the utility itself is also run as a separate business as well, and again consolidated under our financial statements. Any other comments? Does that help a little bit create some clarity to the confusion? For lack of a better way of putting it, they absolutely are. Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, I'm not being disrespectful here. They're an employee of the town, so therefore.
From a legal perspective, yes, but
100%.
from a operational perspective, in terms of the way they run their business, we respect their autonomy, and so we allow them to govern, hire, fire, make decisions, do their performance appraisals. We're not involved in that at all.
And I appreciate that and respect that. It's just simply that the liability still rests with the town for the employee. That's my only point here.
Okay, thank you. Councillor St. Germain.
Sorry, so they are employees, that's why they're entitled to benefits? Is that, because it says salary or benefits due to these individuals? So do they receive town benefits?
No, they would be, they would have to provide their own benefits, or if we allowed or chose to have them run through our benefits program, we could do that, but we don't currently, no.
Oh, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, could I get a motion, please? Councillor Brack?
I make a motion to approve the draft library service agreement and authorize administration to execute the agreement with the Gibbons Library Board with an effective date of August 1st, 2026.
And any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimous. 7.6, council administration budget inquiries.
Through Mr. Mayor, as we've emerged out of the viability review, and we've started to recover from a financial perspective, there has been questions from council inquiries, which is not unexpected in relationship to some of the things that we had to cut back. And so we had to cut back on certain public work services. One of the ones that was key that's caused some concern issues was street sweeping. We've had to cut back on certain family community services and community events. There has been inquiries from council over the past number of weeks about maybe the possibility, because we're running some surplus, if there's any opportunity to maybe add some things back. I'll be frank, again, as your administrator, as your CAO, I'm uncomfortable with like just saying yes to anything. I think it has to go through basically a council discussion. And so I want to open up the floor to any questions that you may have. We still have time. We're 6 months through. Basically this year, we're running a surplus now. We're very adamant that we want to maintain, again, a year-end surplus by the end of the year. But again, there were a number of queries from councillors, and again, mostly related to street sweeping, certain community events, and other opportunities that I would like to basically open up the floor. And if you have any questions or comments, and again, doing it in a transparent manner, that if you want anything added back to the budget, we have opportunity for sure. But we would like to, mention that we are still in a situation of rebuilding our finances.
Councillor Brack.
I'm hoping that the rest of council will agree with me on this, but while I appreciate that we're doing our best, and kudos to you guys for giving us a surplus and for putting on the trajectory that we're on. One of the things that I want to be cautious or careful of is that as a town that we're working together to get ourselves out of debt and get everything. By the same time, when we start eliminating things that bring the town together, that also starts to divide. So one of the big things that I noticed that is off is the hometown weekend for Christmas, and that, to me, that is one thing that should be an absolute no. We shouldn't be touching that. We should actually be encouraging more people to get involved with that. I feel strongly that we start taking activities away like that. That's something that the kids look forward to, as well as a lot of adults and other businesses around town. So I think that we really need to look at doing what we can to ensure that activities and stuff like that remains.
Councillor St. Germain.
I agree with the hometown Christmas and how it brings our community together. The other one that I would like to see come back is the Meals on Wheels. It was a minimal cost, but I think it's very important to the vulnerable community that they require that, and it keeps people going.
Any further, Councillor Longstaff?
Sorry, so I have a hard time remembering the number. What was our surplus sitting at right now? 170,000. So while I'm all for things like the hometown and stuff like that, we have a very, very small surplus right now, and we have other sections that actually do need it. And one of them that I am aware that does need more funding right now is our fire department. If you've read some of the reports and stuff that we're going to be discussing tonight, they're in kind of a financial situation where they need some financial backing as well. And we can't back everything that needs it right now with such a small surplus.
Councillor Curry.
Yeah, regarding things like the hometown Christmas, yeah, I think that deserves a discussion at least, and looking at, what all line items, like what does this cost? What does that cost? What does it cost? Like, absolutely everything, what it involves and what the total cost is. so we can kind of, figure out if there are some things we can still do, replace something with something else, or maybe get volunteers if that's the case to fill in. But just look at everything, what the costs are, and then figure that out from there. But I agree with all the statements from Councillor Longstaff, from Councillor St. Germain, from Councillor Burak. But I think the hometown Christmas is something we should definitely look at, and we have time here, so.
Councillor St. Germain.
I agree. I just feel that cutting it out completely, I think you're correct. Like we could all be hitting the like the pavement and asking for volunteers, asking for donations, asking for sponsorships. I just think cutting it out, while we don't have to spend all of the money on it, I agree looking at the line items and seeing what we can do and ball on a budget.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morrison.
I actually believe that we should table this at the moment. We're only halfway through the fiscal year. $170,000 is not a big surplus. We just saw a road repair that cost us over $30,000, and a boiler goes, and so on and so forth. So $170,000 goes very, very quickly, as Councillor Longstaff had indicated. So I would move or make a motion that council table adding anything to the budget at this point in time. However, to Councillor St. Germain's point and others with regard to the hometown weekend, I think it's an absolutely wonderful weekend in this community, and it does bring people together. But I think that a few of us can pound a little bit of pavement and look for some sponsorship to try to facilitate that weekend, as opposed to adding to the budget right now. I think that so my motion is that we put a little bit of a moratorium on adding anything to the budget at this point in time. However, I think council can come together to try to make sure that that weekend still takes place. Fair?
Mr. Duhamel.
Through Mr. Mayor, if I could respond. Just for council awareness, we've been, again, as we mentioned before, in a state of basically managing the finances. And what we have is, and I call it this, and Ryan will laugh at this, and Tara will laugh at this, I call it the parking lot. We've had a number of requests from staff, including the fire department, but also recreation and public works, for spending in certain areas. And I've put certain items in what we call the parking lot, in which we typically do until possibly around the third quarter, when we feel a little bit more confident in our year-end surplus, and then we come back to council and state and to the staff and say we can start releasing funding on things that we feel are critical. I will say this: in no way would we ever put public safety at risk. So the fire department concerns, when I've had a request and I've had lots of discussions. I actually met with the fire department, went over their complete budget. I was very clear with them that we're going to be a lot tighter than we've been in the past, but at the same time I would never say no to something that would jeopardize safety. I think it's difficult on the staff. You asked about culture. They're not used to not being able to just spend, and so that's very different for them. We're working through those things with them. But I would ask council that, again, be given the time as administration to possibly put a report together for you, kind of take a look at your asks, and please send them. We can put together a report to kind of itemize what those will cost, compare them to our surplus, and then when we feel a bit more comfortable through the year, come back and probably say this is what we can release with our funding, and feel a lot more confident at a certain time. We're only 6 months in; things can happen, right? And so we want to make sure we're safe with our funds. And so thank you.
Okay, thanks for that.
Just one more.
Oh, Councillor Curry.
While we're on this, I just want to say, like, for residents out there, the community, we have a few months until that, hometown Christmas, but please, let's begin discussions. If you see us uptown, anything like that, reach out to us. Let's begin discussions, and let's just see how we can make this happen.
Excellent, thanks. Councillor Morrison, do you want to say your motion again?
I move that council hold on making any adjustments to budget at this point in time. Period. yeah, we'll revisit Q3, a revisit, but with, and further direct administration to actually put together a prioritized ask list at Q3. Aye.
Councillor Brack?
When is our next council meeting is
August
August 25th.
August the 25th, that's correct, Council.
So my only concern is, if we can have, maybe administration come back to us for that meeting, just stuff like hometown Christmas, it takes months of advance to get that stuff ready. So I think that if we can maybe have that administration give us that information for next meeting.
Through Mr. Mayor, administration will commit to coming back with a report with identified costs and potential things that will, again, we'll put into basically a prioritized list for release in the third quarter, including the hometown Christmas.
So Council, if we could get a vote on the motion that's on the floor when you're ready, and then put forward another motion to direct administration to prepare the report.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the first motion? Carried unanimous. And Councillor Brack, you want to make that motion in regards to directing him in?
I'd like to make a motion to direct administration to provide council with the budget amounts for items such as hometown weekend Christmas, as well as other items that we're looking at, and have to us for the August 25th regular meeting of council.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Councillor Brack, in favor? Yeah, sorry, I didn't see your hand. So carried, unanimous. 7.7, emergency road repair.
Through Mr. Mayor and Council, we had a situation in the prior weeks, obviously with significant rainfall. In our network, we do happen to have a few gravel roads in some of the accesses to rural areas. In this case, Township Road 560 had significant degradation due to the rainfall that affected both the culvert and the possibility of the road losing its structure. When a road such as this gets to the point where the gravel degradation because of rain gets to a point where you're looking at kind of the base being affected by rains, there's a risk of washout and basically the structural strength of a road completely being eradicated. In cases like this, the repair is incredibly expensive if that occurs, and so it's always in our best interest to maintain a road in this situation. And we had again had numerous reports of this road having issues and trouble. I think we have a staff person here, I think, that drives on that road. And again, we had heard that it was in disrepair, and then we had our public works team call and say, we believe there's a chance this road could fail. And whenever we have that situation, it basically becomes an emergency situation. We have no choice but to fix it. Very important to note, I reached out to council, but we also reached out to the official administrator, the provincial representative, to let them know, and they okayed us to basically go forward to council with a request for emergency funding. So prior to us getting a council resolution to repair the road, we were able to release some funds, and that amount of that money was $30,000. That included basically the repair of the culvert and the road itself. I drove by yesterday, and I think they were working on it as recently as just yesterday. One of the key things on this is that even though we had emergency funding, we had to move quick, we were still able to secure 2 quotes. Again, we would have liked to have had more, but we got what we could during, again, a short period of time. And so according to procurement, best practices, we're still able to look at, multiple vendors and look at the lowest cost that we could find. And so with that, the road's being repaired, but we still have to, according to Municipal Government Act, amend our capital budget. This qualifies under the under that parameter. We are recommending again a capital budget amendment in the price of approximately $30,000 plus GST, which includes both the culvert repair and the road repair, to be funded from basically our operating budget but in a sense from the LGFF funding that was approved by municipal affairs. It's approximately $560,000 that is going to be put into and flow through our operating budget and then put into reserve was the plan. We would ask that council approve funding from that funding source to help fund this project. So again, won't affect our surplus that we're speaking of to, but will affect how much money we put into reserve by the end of the year. Ryan, did I miss anything? Oh, okay. So again, we're requesting that council approve an amendment to our capital budget for the Township Road emergency repair.
Thank you. And you said that the repair is underway now, right?
It is, I believe. I drove by yesterday and I saw a number of basically vehicles,
Equipment out
graders,
there.
equipment out
Yeah.
there, and it was close to Highway 28A. So I believe it was on our section and not the Sturgeon County section. So I believe the repair is currently going on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So yes, the culvert repair has been completed. We've had pictures forwarded to me from staff. So the culvert was one of the big concerns because it was actually starting to significantly fail. And so it had to be, that was the really strong emergency part. So that was completed. We asked the contractor if he could do it as soon as possible. So he did squeeze it into his schedule, which we very much appreciated. The second portion of the road, which my understanding is there's a bus stop area in that location, which is another reason why coming into September, we need to have those repairs done. So that'll be the second portion, and that's being planned right now in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor Longstaff.
I move council amend the 2026 capital budget to add the Township Road 560 Emergency Road and Culvert Repair Project in an amount not to exceed $30,324 inclusive of GST, funded by a transfer from the 2026 operating budget sourced from the local government fiscal framework funding, approved by the Alberta Municipal Affairs for operating support during the 2026 calendar year.
Yeah. All those in favor? So carried unanimous. Excellent. Old business 9.1 Regional Waste Service Collection Initiative, Rose Ridge Landfill Commission.
Through Mr. Mayor, currently the town provides basically a contracted waste pickup and recycling service. We have been approached by the Rose Ridge Landfill Commission basically to enter into a cooperative procurement process where they would take over the procurement of these services and manage basically the services on our behalf. This would result in us providing basically Rose Ridge with an annual fee. So similar to what we do now, it's just it would flow through to them. But what this is proposing to do is to provide basically an advantage in cooperative procurement by having multiple municipalities under one contract. And what that does is that provides an opportunity for a preferential price. And so after talking with the regional CAOs, about the situation, they have reviewed the situation and I did as well. This looks like a good deal financially. It also looks like a fairly good deal from operational perspective, as it would take some of the administrative work that we currently have to do for basically waste services off our plate, which is a good thing. Also, from a cheaper perspective, we'd also have a service level increase in that it looks like, again, from the outset of the agreement that we would be looking at annual organic basically services, where right now I think we have an ongoing organic service where we have right now I think an annual service. So this would actually increase our service level somewhat. So this provides us with an opportunity to basically work regionally in a cooperative situation where Rose Ridge would take over basically the procurement and the work and basically the administration of our waste services, and result in a cost savings, because again we would have preferential pricing under a cooperative contract. And so looking at this pretty hard, it's something that, again, I'm always a little bit skeptical of when we get into these types of deals, because again, sometimes they don't work out quite as advertised. But I will say, after some review, this does look like it would be a very, very good opportunity for the town to enter into.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Saint Germain?
I noticed here that it says that most notably year-round organic collections. So would that be like the other providing us a second wheel bin? Because then my fear would be that it, like in other communities, then they reduce your garbage because you should be putting it in the opposite bin. I know this has happened in other communities I've lived in.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So similar to, again, living in town of Redwater, we have this service that's provided. It is a separate bin, but doesn't change the size of the bins. There's just a separate organics bin. It's actually picked up, I believe, from the first week of May until I think it's usually the last week-ish of November, just depending on when the snow flies. But it doesn't change the size of the bins unless we agree to do a service level reduction in that way.
Sorry, I meant in the communities that I've lived in, what they did was they made the regular garbage pickup every other week. So that would be my main concern with changing it is
We would have to
maintaining our
agree.
service levels.
Yeah, we'd have to agree to a different model in that way. In this case, we're not looking at reducing anything, just increasing the organics pickup in that way. So no reductions unless council approves a service level reduction for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Morrison?
When we had the presentation from Rose Ridge, I was confused with, because they actually don't do recycling. They do garbage and organics, but they don't do recycling. So that's a separate contract. But is that a separate contract as still part of this Rose Ridge contract, or you have to do a separate contract with whoever it is, GFL or?
So right now our contract actually is with GFL for the pickup. They bring the garbage to Rose Ridge, but the recycling goes to a facility in Edmonton. So that portion of it wouldn't change. It's just the contracted service would be hired by Rose Ridge and billed through to us, and they would coordinate the entirety of the service. So we would still get the same tippage fees, that kind of thing. It would just be, we would no longer be responsible to administer the service provider. They're looking at trying to do that regionally to try and benefit the entire region as a whole instead.
Do you want a bite? No. So, and nothing, our dates don't change. It's status quo for absolutely everything. I'm just getting organics now.
As far as we know, now obviously if there's any changes, that comes to council for approval before any changes would happen. But the plan as of right now is, rather than doing our own RFP for garbage pickup services, we're going to utilize the regional model, and they will provide the same service, if not better, than what we are currently getting directly working with GFL.
So my question is so we'll pay them to do the procurement and to manage it all, correct? And then what's the cost difference between paying them to do it versus us doing it?
There wouldn't be major differences that we're aware of. Now, obviously this, we still have to go through the finalized agreement and everything, but as far as I know, outside of what we already pay as commission fees, there's no extra cost to having this service being provided. There is a note in there of an estimated annual operating savings actually of $9,300, but I don't believe we're going to be billed by Rose Ridge directly for procurement or anything along those lines. It would just be part of our commission fees that we're already paying.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor Simonowitz.
I move that council authorize administration to participate in the Regional Waste Collection Procurement Initiative coordinated by Rose Ridge Waste Commission and enter into the regional service arrangement through December 31st, 2029.
All those in favor? So carried, unanimous. New business, 10.1. Gibbons Farmers Market, the use of the Gibbons Cultural Center.
Through Mr. Mayor, fairly customary on occasion for user groups to come forward and request use of our facilities at no cost. Typically, these are ones that have been deemed by council to provide value over and above basically what we consider an economic value to the vendor himself. A farmer's market supports local vendors, supports basically the community, and is something that, quite frankly, is a bit of an event that the community just simply enjoys. As part of you know their initiative, they have asked for support through basically a donation in kind of the free use of our cultural facility. Having done many of these in the past, this is typically something that municipalities, from a best practice perspective, do. It's recommended. It helps out again the user group itself, helps out the community, supports them financially, and really that is at no cost, really, in a sense, to the town. And so they've requested that council consider a number of dates that they would like to have donated, basically to the farmers market for free use. Again, this is when it gets a little bit colder outside, and they have to move into the indoors for the farmers market, and so they're requesting a number of dates, including basically 2 Christmas markets, a Mother's Day market, and 3 community event markets. And so open to council consideration. You can choose to approve all events, choose to approve a few events, or choose to decline the request and approve no events. And so with that, it's open to council consideration.
It's just the total of 3 events is the 2 Christmas markets and then the Mother's Day market. Is that correct?
3 additional?
Is there 3 additional in there that I missed?
I think basically they're looking for 6 events, which would be 3 community market events. Or no, maybe I'm wrong. 2 Christmas market events and the Mother's Day event. That's
Yeah.
it. So 3. That's right. 3 in
3
total.
in total.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Saint Germain.
I just have a question. It says Mother's Day Market in 2026. Should that be 2020?
That is correct. It should be 2027.
Okay.
Councillor Brack.
At the end of the day, how much money are we looking at? Like, what's the cost savings, or what's the, I guess, the donation amount that this would be?
We will get back to you with that information through Mr. Mayor. Again, not sure. I will say this, that, typical rental events might be it's in the hundreds of dollars, not in the thousands. And so I think the cost is negligible.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
I'm just going to say that I think this one's a little bit of a no-brainer. It's 3 nice events for the community, and having attended all of these historically, they're always busy.
Jody?
Email attached, thank you. I always forget that. In the email attached to Chris Pinot, that it does mention one of the markets, one of the Christmas markets is held on the same weekend as Hometown Christmas in Gibbons. So it may help support that if council does decide to move forward with that event.
Yep. Excellent. No further questions. Can I get a motion, please? Councillor Saint Germain.
Sorry. I flipped the page. I make a motion that council approves the donation of the Cultural Center auditorium space free of charge to the Gibbons Farmers Market for 2 Christmas markets and 1 Mother's Day market in 2027, with event dates to be confirmed with administration.
So maybe just a correction: 2 markets in 26 and 1 in 27.
2 Christmas markets in 2026 and 1 Mother's Day market in 2027.
Perfect. Any questions? Further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion or a vote, please? All in favor? So carried unanimous.
I just better get a free jar of dill pickles out of this.
That's bribery.
10.2, AI Data Center.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to welcome Mrs. Brown to present this report. I guess to start, I'd like to thank her for all the work she put into this because we're new to data centers and so we're in a learning mode here. But with that, Jody.
Okay. Just get a little adjusted here. There. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, through you to all of council and the public gallery. And so, yes, it's been a long time since I've heard Mrs. Brown. I used to teach grade 4 many years ago. So this report is just put together for as information, general information. As Tim mentioned, we are not experts in data AI centers. Also not an expert in the specific one we're talking about going into Sturgeon or the Greenlight Electricity Center. So this is some general publicly available information that we put together for your consideration with some information on the project as a whole, some background information, and there's some discussion about possible impacts to consider. And essentially, we don't know yet what those impacts are in a full degree without doing, extensive more research. And I'm sure that there'll be additional studies and work done in that regard as the project progresses. So the idea behind this is what you might want to consider and what questions would be important to ask from Sturgeon County during this next development phase of the project. So you may, for example, want to get more specific information on the amount of water use and how that might impact our community. You may want to also get some information on noise levels and if noise is included in a council position statement, it would be a supportable approach to request disclosure of applicable noise modeling, monitor, and mitigation information for the data center and associated infrastructure. Rather than stating specifically they will occur, I think we need the data to drive those statements or behind those statements. So part of that would be to ask for that information as the project goes along to help you make informed decisions in terms of what that position statement might look like. Additionally, potential impacts for Gibbons are listed there. So it may, given that it's located outside the town of Gibbons but in close proximity to, the sources reviewed for the port don't provide a quantitative assessment of the future economic, housing, traffic, municipal service, or fiscal impacts specifically on Gibbons. However, they are matters that may become important as that development begins to take shape. So it's certainly something that council may want to identify in a position statement as specific areas of concern that they would like more information on, or that you would like more information on. And particularly under matters for council discussion, a position statement could also consider whether the town should articulate principles concerning support for regional economic investment while ensuring infrastructure costs and offsite impacts are appropriately addressed, protection from unreasonable traffic, noise, air quality, or other offsite effects based on applicable regulatory standards and evidence, transparent reporting of water use, energy requirements, emissions, noise monitoring, and other relevant environmental information, and of course early consultation with the town where transportation, emergency response, or infrastructure decisions may affect the town. Consideration of Gibbons in the regional infrastructure, workforce, housing, and economic development planning associated with the major industrial heartland investment as well. And so in conclusion, we're just asking whether council would like to accept this as information, or if you would like to direct administration to create a position statement for council review and consideration.
If I may, just to add to what Mrs. Brown, Jody, has just stated, This has come very quickly, and we've recognized that our community is the one that, in our opinion, is most affected by this data center. From a density perspective, we're close to it, and it will affect us. And so we are in the throes of doing a lot of research, as Jody stated. One of the key things that for council's knowledge is that we are actually reaching out to municipalities in the U.S. that have experienced the reality of a data center, because again, what we're finding as we read information is there's a lot of what I call different opinions on the effect. And so we'd like to hear it from somebody who's actually experienced it and hear the real thought process on this. And so we are in the position right now of collecting as much information as we can to inform council, and also for council consideration would like to ask you to consider the possibility of some public engagement with our public to ask them what their opinion is as well, because I think that would help enable council to make a better informed decision in terms of our position as we start to discuss this development with our neighbor. So right now, again, we put some information together fairly quickly for you to begin the dialogue and begin the discussion, but want you to know that we are doing some pretty intense research right now, and are looking for a municipal partner to help support us and partner with us from the United States that would basically be willing to inform council as to the realities of what it's like to have one of these beside them. There's a lot of different opinions around water, noise, impacts on infrastructure, and we have found already a lot of information that doesn't exactly get explained in the press that we've received thus far. And we want to make sure council has the right information as we start to formulate our position and takes into consideration the impact on our residents as well.
Excellent, thanks. And I should also note that I've reached out to a couple of mayors in the states for data centers just to get some information, because not everything you read on social media or whatever in regards, lots of it's AI generated anyways, so I guess AI data centers are working. You guys weren't around here when NWR was getting built, and the sheer volume of traffic on Highway 28A was astronomical. Buses, cars, so this is going to be no different, right, in regards to that. I believe we have a meeting on Thursday, with Sturgeon County. They're going to give us a briefing on kind of an update of their date release. So I don't know if there's going to be any question or answer period at that particular moment, or it's just an information session.
Council was informed that we had a request from the mayor of Sturgeon County and the CEO of Sturgeon County for the mayor and myself to meet with them to have a bit of an update on the project itself. One of the key things, again, we won't be prepared for that meeting, and I think council has to consider what's our position for how this town benefits from this development as well. And I think we have to begin formulating our position on that as well with the county.
Absolutely. Do you know if since the news release from Sturgeon County, has the office received any calls from the citizens here asking questions about it, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, but that would be a question we would have to ask our frontline staff.
Okay. I meant to ask this today when I came in, and I didn't do it. Okay, thanks. Any further questions? Councillor St. Germain?
I've been doing a little bit of research on it. My only concern, I guess a question I would want to ask of Sturgeon County is, it's my understanding that it is a closed loop water cooling system. So then they have to change that water out periodically. And currently, I'm just wondering what the legislative process and the environmental caveats are to them doing it, because my understanding is they have to put in chemicals and stuff, so that, and then that can cause further issue with releasing bacteria, et cetera, into the water supply. So those would be the questions I would want asked of Sturgeon County and have them addressed directly. Like,
yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. We had a bit of a meeting yesterday with Arrow. Travis and I were there, and that was one of the questions we posed to them. Should they need to dump it? Will they take it? And apparently it's in the books to happen that way, right? But I mean, still the environmental impact of the chemicals and stuff in it for sure.
In the books to do what, sorry?
When it comes time to change the closed loop water system, Arrow Water Treatment they've already spoken to them, and apparently that's where the the wastewater is gonna go and they're gonna treat it or whatever the case may be. So, but I mean, even still to find out exactly the chemical impact to the environment for sure. Yeah. Councilor Breck?
I guess one of the questions I've got, one of the things that on a little bit of research that I've done and read is one of the concerns is, as you say, you know, with that closed loop system and the water changing, and my understanding is that our regulatories are kind of weak for Alberta as far as for the industrial section goes. And when you're going up against a large company like Meta, you know, a lot of times, and there's several instances where they've not abided by rules, and then they just pay the fines because the fines are actually cheaper than fixing the issues. So stuff like that is a huge concern if you're going up up against large companies like that, where I don't want to say they don't abide by the law, but they, you know, they'll pay the fines. If that's the worst that's going to happen, it's kind of like getting a speeding ticket. If you got a whole bunch of money, all right, so I'm going to get a ticket. I'll pay the funds and be on our way, but you continue to speed. So my biggest concern is what's the province going to do in order to step up and ensure that companies like this are going to be held accountable with something that's going to hit them more in the pocketbook that a large company doesn't want to take the chance to do. Because I think this is I think the engagement with our community members has to be had, and you know, this has to have a hard look taken at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilor Curry?
One thing worth noting too is we talked about yesterday, them talking about the closed loop water system because people being concerned about water usage, right? It was mentioned that it would not be the closed loop system that would cause, you know, the water usage, but rather the plant, and that's not being, I don't know if that's necessarily being portrayed properly.
Sorry, Councilor Curry. So yeah, I was there for the conversation they had, and what we were told by again the executive director of Air Utilities, who is a utilities expert. She's an engineer, master's degree. She made it very clear to us it's not the data center that's the water concern. It's actually the electricity plant that they build beside it that uses all the water. And so that's what really hit me, is like this information we see about, well, it doesn't use any more water than a golf course. Well, that's not exactly accurate, because the electricity system beside it uses a massive amount of water. So those are the types of things that we are trying to understand better. And I think we need to talk to, as you did, some municipalities that have dealt with these in reality, and get the real goods on the situation, because there's a lot of misinformation out there that we're facing right now. We want to make sure the council has the right information. We want to make sure that the public has the right information so we can formulate our position. But the one thing, Councillor Curry, I think the one thing that Councillor St. Germain is speaking about is that the closed loop is the water running through the system, the data center itself, and at some point it becomes basically a pollutant, and it has to be dumped. And so that is kind of like when they have to clear out the system, and I have no idea how long that takes. You know, our upgraders go through something similar, and their water is dumped quite often. A data center cooling system basically is used a bit less. Just for interest, one of the things we have found, the reason why they've chosen here is because of our cool climate. There's less water and less electricity needed, because there's less need to cool it down because it's colder here. So there are things like that that are kind of coming to light as to why this has become such a hotbed for these places to be. But again, great question. We have to figure out what the timing of the pollutant, basically when does it get dumped, and then what is the cost impact or the volume impact of water for the plant itself beside that's going to be powering this data center.
We also talked about, you know, when these things become, you know, the technology of them, like when do they become obsolete, right? Things are moving so quick, like at what point, what if it's 5 years down the road, and then what do we do with this thing? Like then what?
It's a fair question, and I think Jody Brown has all the answers for that. I'm just kidding. These great question, and,
Large
and
ball hockey
oddly, we've been doing ourselves basically a fast track to trying to learn about these things. And one of the papers that I read is just that, is that there's already technology where they're localizing basically the technology for a data center on even personal laptops. And so like just anything with technology, it expands so quickly in terms of capacity. There are thoughts that these data centers could be obsolete, but we're in no position to make that statement. I mean, again, I guess the thing that would surprise me, or maybe not surprise me, I don't know how to state this, is that the amount of money that's being invested in these centers, I would assume that there's been some studies, at least from their side, from an investment perspective, that they have some longevity. If they don't, well then it's somewhat of a foolish investment. But again, it's something that we're very poor investment, but it's something that we'll have to learn as we go.
Councillor Brack?
The other question, I know there's been some answers back and forth that I've read recently, but is in regards to the power consumption. So they're saying it's 2 years before they're up and running. But my understanding is that the turbines and everything else needed, there's a backlog on those, so it could be up to 3 to 4 years before that would happen. So how is that going to affect our power grid? How is that going to affect our utility costs?
Through Mr. Mayor, what I've read, and I've read a paper and I watched the interview with Danielle Smith, and there's no guarantees in this, and so I don't want to be held to this because this isn't based in research. But there has been a commitment from the province that they would basically guarantee a discount on the rates that would make sure that the rates are normalized. And that there would not be an impact on the pocketbook of Albertans. That said, you know, these are promises that, again, you just never know what will happen in reality. But my understanding is this data center will use as much power as the city of Edmonton practically in terms of like to be able to power this. So I assume there has to be an impact. But again, in the same interview that I watched, there was conversations that the Alberta power grid, because there's a significant investment because of primarily the industrial heartland and the beaver and wood buffaloes, basically future investment in their heartland. The reason why all those those electrical lines went by many years ago was a massive investment in electricity capacity for the anticipation of the 13 upgraders that was supposed to be in the industrial heartland did not happen. So my understanding is, again, according to the paper and the interview that I saw, is that they say they have capacity to manage the power output of the data center for some time, and that they would subsidize basically any payment or electricity costs. But again, the one thing that we know is you know, politicians, I mean, again, there's elections, politicians change, policies change. We don't know what we don't know. I think that's the key thing. And again, good question, but according to the province as it stands now, they've made a commitment that it will not be an impact on cost.
Councillor Longstaff?
Just one quick observation and then a question. You guys didn't do this Appendix A map, did you? The map that's on the thing, the Appendix A, you guys didn't draft that up, did you? Oh. Oh. Yeah.
Put the big caveats on the report.
Yeah, I think Highway 643 is the only thing accurate on there. Anyway, okay. Anyway, the main question I have here, with all this construction for the data center and the electricity center, we all know how busy Highway 28A already is. We've seen the number of major accidents and stuff on there. When these two centers are being constructed, the traffic is going to be way worse than it is now. And I'm just wondering if anybody, and probably I'm guessing it would have to be Sturgeon County, if anybody's reached out to the Minister of Transportation to get 28A twinned like it should have been many years ago.
Yeah, I said in a meeting not too long ago, Highway 28 is the highway they're slating to twin, is 28. It's on the books to twin. When it starts, nobody knows, but it's only going to be twinned to Bonaccord.
But the that study is just now being, not the study, but the engineering.
Yeah. Engineering drawing.
Engineering and drawings is just being done for 28 in this current budget year, which means we're at least 3 years out of twinning. So long past when they've got shovels in the ground right now.
Councillor Saint Germain.
I just have a question as far as citizen engagement. I know way back when there was a town hall on the AI data center. Yeah, in October, I believe it was put up at noon. It was at 6, so a lot of people didn't attend. I'm just wondering if there's any further consultation information sessions for citizens to attend.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of any being held by Sturgeon County, but one of the things that we wanted to discuss with council, and we've identified also some strategic planning dates, which I've discussed with the OA today. We need to formulate our position, but we were going to ask council if we want to look at our own engagement for the town, basically looking at maybe we can bring in some experts, have a town hall, maybe some questionnaires, and start formulating and understanding what our public thinks, but also informing our public about the realities of the data center. And so we're not aware of any regional additional public engagement, but we are going to again say maybe we need to take initiative and start looking at our own engagement.
I agree. We need to look at that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Nobody wants to give me a motion? Okay.
I'll make the motion to accept the report as information.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So carried unanimous. 10.3, regionalization of fire and emergency services.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Through Mr. Mayor, I am seeing possible need for a comfort break. Would that be fair to say? So if that's the case, I think we can convene and then we'll start again if that's okay.
1840, call a recess, 10 minutes. Under new business, 10.3 regional fire services.
Through Mr. Mayor and Council, we have recently, on July 20th, received a letter from the mayor of Sturgeon County, and what they presented to us was a business case for the regionalization of fire. To provide council with a reminder and the public who may not be aware, the regionalization of the fire department was one of the recommendations that we as Bloom made to council at the very initial stages of our engagement with you. And the reason why was simply, again, simple dollars and cents cost savings. Fire departments are incredibly expensive. They are not typically run by small urbans any longer. Typically, there's been an evolution of municipal fire to moving towards a regional model because, again, of the economies of scale that occur. And so we felt it was a reasonable ask with a number of other asks that we had of Sturgeon County. The conversations began, I think, very, very fruitfully, and there was some good cooperation going on at the outset. Again, to be very transparent with our public, because there were some questions about it, we started to receive word back. Again, it was just simply comments that there was some notion that there might be a push towards charging us full cost recovery right at the outset of the inception of the regionalization agreement, which would have meant we would have saved nothing. When we looked at that and heard that, and again, I make no comment that this was again Sturgeon County's council's position, because again, we didn't receive anything from that. It was just simply in passing, we received comments of that from our neighbors. We made a decision to basically remove ourselves from the regionalization of fire discussion, simply because with the viability review occurring at the same time, we would not have had the capacity to look at the negotiation and the analysis required of both of those at the same time if there was not, again, this commitment to basically a phased in approach for costs. And so it was one of those things where we had kind of deemed that it was not probably in our best interest to continue with that agreement at that time. Not something that we didn't consider was probably a fruitful thing for us to consider in the future, but at that time we decided to back away from it. This has now come to fruition and to light to us, and again, they've provided us with the business case. We still need time as your administration to go through it in detail. I will say though that from the outset, what I've read thus far and what I've seen is basically the business case seems to be somewhat congruent with what our original ask was essentially to have a phased in approach over 5 to 10 years, where we would receive a significant possibility of a cost saving that is similar to other urban municipalities in the region, and that would have provided us with an opportunity to again put ourselves in a financially strong position. And so that was the reason why we recommended it, and it looks like the business case is now congruent with that request. And so from an outset, I would say again, council's debate and discussion around this, but I would say I believe this is again a welcome report and something that I think should bring us back to the table at least for a conversation about the opportunity and maybe begin the discussions again, because again it looks like it's a reasonable and fair deal that they're offering through this business case. That said, I have an incredibly talented analyst sitting beside me, and we both had discussions about the business case, and the devil is always in the real details and behind the details, especially in the negotiation. And so I would caution that at this time we are not in a position as your administration to provide you with a strong recommendation related to the business case itself or a decision, but I would say we are in a position to say that again we accept the information as information, and we're looking for direction to analyze it and come back with a stronger position in terms of recommendations around the negotiation. Anything? No? Good. So with that, I'd welcome any discussion and debate on the subject.
I myself read it. I actually perused it probably 4 or 5 different times when I through it, and like you said, it does seems very similar to what we were asking for at the outset of it, for sure. And I think for you guys to get more time to go through it page by page, so to speak, that I would agree to accept it, the business case as information at this time, and with a follow-up from you guys with recommendations. Anybody else got any questions? Comments? Councillor St. Germain?
I just agree that I would need more time to go through it. And I would appreciate administration going through it with a fine tooth comb.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Breck?
I guess what Councillor Saint Germain had kind of said, I want to make sure that, you know, our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, just with the, I guess we'll call it rumors of what was said previously, or what the, you know, word on the street was on why we had backed down. I just want to make sure that whatever we, you know, that we agree to, that it's in the best interests of our citizens, and not, you know, nothing else other than that.
Councillor Longstaff?
Like, I know this is a lot of information, like, it's an incredible amount of information to go over, and you have to read it multiple times to understand a lot of it. Being that the fire department is one of my committees, and I'm a former member of our department, it does mean a lot to me. I have been talking with some of the fire department, and I've got 19 out of the 21 of them, their opinions on regionalization. But again, this is something that needs further discussion and a lot more review.
For sure, and it's good now that the report is public and give them an opportunity to read it as well, right? So. Any,
Just one, I guess it's not an amendment, but something I was looking into that I haven't had a chance to flesh out fully is just based on the fact that we have a outstanding loan. I guess it's not necessarily a debenture, but a loan on one of the fire trucks. I don't know that we'll be able to do a full in-kind exchange deduction on that, because good chance is that Sturgeon, if we transfer the asset to Sturgeon County, we'd potentially get the loan called on us at that point. So we might have to make some adjustments to the in-kind portion as well too. But again, just something of consideration, because we'll have to make sure we get all that covered off.
They speak to that loan in there, and I think they speak to paying, giving the cash to pay out the loan so the bill of sale can be signed over to them. I think they speak to that in there.
The problematic issue is we'd have to have a discussion with municipal affairs, because the way municipal finance works is when you take out a municipal debenture through it's through service. Oh, we'd be okay. Okay, so if it's through service, we can pay it down early. So that, again, good news. Thank you, Brian. One of the things, just again, one of the things I think it's very important to note for council is that I think it was a very pertinent move, or a very, very prudent move, to actually put a hold on the regionalization discussion, because what this provides us now is basically with a runway. We're in a position of strength, where before we were in a position of weakness because we're in a hurry. Where this provides us with a runway to be able to, you know, analyze the information, provide council with the again analysis that's required to make a decision of this type, and also work collaboratively with the county in a more what I would call relaxed kind of atmosphere in terms of making good decisions for the residents. So we want to do what's right for the residents of Gibbons, and so we want to make sure we really understand what this looks like and what this deal means for the town.
What kind of, for you guys to go through it more in depth, what kind of time frame? End of September?
Through Mr. Mayor, I was hoping that we'd be able to provide an information report at the next council meeting, August 25th. Basically our take of the review of the report, and I plan to reach out to the county and maybe talk a little bit about with their team about it as well, and come up with a kind of a collaborative approach and kind of really fleshing out what this means. Our goal was the August 25th meetings to give you the information on what our take is on this.
Councillor Longstaff.
I know it mentions it in the business case analysis there, but with us leasing Bay 4 to Alberta Health Services for the ambulance, and they get the first right of refusal, I think it's what they called it in the thing, that we have to be careful with, do we not?
Through Mr. Mayor, one of the things that's very important is ambulance services within the town of Gibbons. We would have to protect that bay, and I don't think that, to be quite frank, I don't think that would be a concern, because that basically bay and that ambulance actually serves the rural residents as well. So I think it'd be something that would be part of the discussion, but we do need to protect that bay, and we're under a contractual obligation to do so right now.
Councillor Morrison.
I don't at all disagree with regionalization of fire services. I think that looking at this very closely, because the assumption of a lease for the fire hall itself is a little bit concerning, particularly with Sturgeon County's intention of building a larger regionalized facility somewhere, you know, undisclosed at this point in time. So, you know, is it a situation where we go to a regionalized model? They're leasing the building here in Gibbons, and then, and we're only leasing it until we build that larger center elsewhere at some point in time. And Bon Accord's fire hall is also, you know, part of that. So I'd have a concern there. And it's one that, you know, definitely needs to be looked at.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think one of the key things that, again, our preparation for the 25th, we'll be looking at those types of things. And as you've seen with our financial plan around the budget to date, we would have to develop a financial plan that would wean us off basically those lease revenues over time, because I think the reality is in the long term, because of the industrial you know, development that's occurring beside us, it's not a matter of if, it's when a larger scale regional fire hall will probably be built in this area and make our current fire hall somewhat redundant. And so again, I think it's something that'd be prudent for us to start developing that plan sooner than later.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions? Can I get a motion, please? Councilor Curry.
I move that council accept the July 2026 letter from Sturgeon County Mayor Alana Natu and the business case for the regionalization of fire and emergency services as information.
And maybe bring back a more detailed report on the 25th of August, next council meeting. Tim, you'd indicated that, right? You guys have figured be ready by the 25th?
Can I give you a suggestion on that?
Sure.
Okay, and that, Councillor Curry, then you would amend your motion to include direct administration to have an in-depth review of the materials and present a report to council at the next regular council meeting.
So
Yes.
you want me to just say that, add that? And
You can just say as it was just presented to council.
What Chris said.
Yeah, just present. Yeah, you don't have to repeat it. It's okay.
what she said, that's what she said.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. 10.4 strategic planning workshop, trying to set some dates.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, we've deemed a number of key issues that need strategic planning discussion. And again, I had a discussion with the official administrator today, and it actually was a very welcome one about transparency when it comes down to strategic planning sessions. And so we do have things that we need to discuss, like the data center, you know, basically regionalization of fire, land negotiations, those types of things that are currently in place. This requires strategic discussion, but again, not intended in any way to not be transparent with the public, and not in any way a situation where we're going to be furthering decisions, but simply general discussions around strategy so that we can start preparing as your administration to develop reports and information and evidence to help support decisions during the 2027 budget year. So we do have a number of things now that we're emerging from the viability review that we have to get to work on, because we put a lot of things on hold, but we now need basically council direction on a number of items. And so we're looking for some time with you to basically get some direction. So we're hoping to find some dates, whether it be evenings, weekends, whatever it might be, to start getting business done.
Okay, thanks. And from my understand of the options, the three options you gave, we only need to choose one of those dates. Is that correct? All three aren't necessary?
Through Mr. Mayor, we're hoping for, again, over the coming months, at least probably 2 or 3 opportunities to meet with you. We're offering a couple of evenings, if that would be sufficient to cover off the things that we have, or a full day weekend date. So, you know, it's either 2 evenings or a full day with you would be a good start. And then if we need further time, we can discuss that at the end of the workshop date. We understand it's difficult during summer hours, and so we're looking either August, September, whatever it might be, but we need some time with you
Come
for
in.
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Comments? Longstaff? Councillor Longstaff?
Okay, for the dates that are set on Tuesday, August the 4th, I wouldn't be able to make that. I have a committee meeting that night. And then I'm out of province August 5th until the 11th, so I would not be able to make any of those dates.
Yeah.
As mentioned, these were just recommendations, and so if council wants to find additional dates or something else, we can decide on that this evening.
Yeah, mandatory 100% attendance. You want all of us there?
Honestly, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, I've done these over the years many times, and sometimes councillors just can't make it. And if you're okay with it, we can update absent councillors on the information. Again, there's no decisions being made. There's no debates. It's just simply discussions.
Council Morrison?
As previously mentioned, evenings are better than weekends in August. I think you've mentioned the 4th and the 6th, both dates that I would be great with. It seems that there's a number of people that are MIA for the 8th, which was the full day recommendation. So 4 and 6 seem to work so far.
Any other comments in regards to or Council Curry?
Yeah, I'm out of town from the 7th to the 12th.
So 4 and 6 are okay for you then?
Yeah, I'll make.
Okay. Councillor Longstaff?
Yeah, if you guys go with the 4th and 6th, if you guys could just email me the whole thing when you're done, I can look at that while I'm out of town when I have the odd free moment.
Anybody else? You good?
I'm good with whatever.
Okay.
I'll make work.
Okay. Sounds like the 4th and the 6th might be the consensus.
I meant for you guys to do it while I was gone.
Can I get a motion on that with the recommended dates? Councillor Morrison?
Council moves that we set up a strategic planning session from was it 6 to 9? 6 to 9 on the 4th and the 6th of August.
All those in favor? So carried. Unanimous. $10.5 Enforcement Services Amending Agreement.
Mrs. Brown?
Do you know the British woman, Mrs. Brown? You know who I'm talking about.
Well, not to give too much information, but my maiden name is Bond.
Ooh,
So
Jody
so I'm
Bond?
used to
Wow.
the James Bond references also.
that's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there, I think the mic is on. So the purpose of bringing this forward is that the agreement with enforcement services through the town of Morinville has changed in the sense of what's actually reflected now in practice given the financial situation. And so the amount of hours in the budget has been reduced to 15. And so we just wanted to create an amending agreement to reflect that. And there are a couple of options here for council, but I will point out as well that we met with Bylaw Enforcement Services to review the amending agreement, and they had some recommended changes, particularly around, us having the ability to basically hire our own legal counsel if it's needed. So that would fall to us now, which we would really like to see that change because it puts those costs in our control and those decisions in our control more so. So we're looking at potentially making those changes, but I have to review the changes that have been forwarded to me from Morinville before bringing that back to council for final review. However, I think the budget we've talked about already earlier in terms of if those hours were to be increased, then that would require an amendment to the budget. However, maybe I'll let Tim talk about future plans in that regard or potential in that regard.
One of the things that has, been very obvious over the last couple or 3 weeks or so is I have had messages from council with your concern about the level of services from bylaw and us cutting the service back. We're moving from basically what we consider a proactive bylaw to a reactive bylaw, which is a difficult thing to do. Again, because bylaw has really an immense value to municipalities from a slightly premise perspective, from basically a safe community perspective, from a really community perspective. So there has been concerns that have been conveyed to us from council. We have made the Morinville team aware again that the intent of council likely, and what we feel the direction we're receiving from council is to probably look at working towards over time re-implementing bylaw at the level of services that we had previously. Again, this is one of the areas that you had deemed as an important area. So we are again, and I've talked with Jody and I've talked with Ryan about when we begin our budget deliberations, that this is probably an area that we would be looking at, possibly making a recommendation to supporting in terms of its funding back to its original funding if we can afford it, and that would move us back to again being a proactive bylaw service rather than a reactive. And again, so trying to react to council's direction, but at the same time, it really does come down to dollars and cents.
Okay, thank you. As far as the public is concerned, it's an adjustment for them to go from a proactive approach to a reactive approach. Seeing him in town, get him doing enforcement as opposed to calling them on the telephone and getting him to come out. I think the question then becomes the response time in regards to where he's in and what location. And should he be in town doing some investigation, if he hits that 15-hour period, is it talk about what happens at that point I haven't been through the agreement totally, but does it speak to that in there?
If I recall, I believe that it's in the full agreement is in your package, but typically there is, and if I recall, there is an option for overtime, but that's something, again, we'd have to look at the budget very closely in terms of what we could approve. So typically what happens, I've been worked in communities where they have a reactive approach, or what I've heard called a complaint-based system. And typically what the enforcement officers will do in that case is they prioritize based on safety concerns first, and then other priorities fall behind that, with safety being first, so that they're addressing things that are an immediate danger or concern that way from a safety perspective to the public. So for example, maybe a dog at large, that may be a concern of a bite, they would put that higher on their list of priorities, and then that's how they manage those hours. Some of the work we can do internally in terms of acting as a liaison sometimes. I've seen municipalities do that as well, where you're already doing that to a certain degree, where staff will help facilitate putting the information to enforcement, and then facilitate communicating with the resident. So that's one of the ways to help manage your hours. And then you can also look at a policy that explains to the public that that's the type of system that you have, and it explains how complaints will be addressed and the prioritization as well. So there's some options there. However, I do know it's hard to see enforcement hours reduced. So if that's something that can be done in the next budget year, then I'm sure that would be an option we could look at.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Simonowitz?
I'm just wondering, has there been an increase in complaints? Because it should be pretty easy to keep track, since it's a form that has to be filled out either on a computer or in person, right? So we should have some stats.
Yes, we do have a tracking system for complaints. So when complaints come in, we record them and we follow and make sure the actions have been taken and what the final outcome is. And so we could certainly provide those stats. I'm not sure if that was done in previous years, but I know since I've been here, I've noticed the staff are doing that. So we should be able to give, at the very least, some stats from this year.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Can I get a motion, either number 1 or number 2, I believe?
Your Honor, I believe we're looking for both motions this
both
evening.
motions,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Just gotta get somebody to do it, that's the tough part. Counselor Longstaff.
I move council approve the amending agreement to the enforcement services agreement with the town of Morinville to reduce contracted enforcement services from 28 hours per week to 15 hours per week. Is the other one a separate motion, Chris, or is it the same one? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
My apologies. We had a conversation or a meeting today with the Morinville bylaw team, and there was one change that came up in relationship to the way we handle legal costs, and so we committed to making that change for them. So we would ask council this time if you wouldn't mind tabling this motion so that we can make that adjustment to the contract. Then we'll come back with a full completed contract for your approval.
Okay, so update your motion to table this.
Okay, I'm gonna rescind my motion and, I like to move that we table this until the next meeting.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. All right. Bylaws, 11.1. Is that you again, Ryan?
It sure is. I'm back. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we just have a RFD coming forth for second and third reading of the bylaw ALT 4-26 refinance bylaw. So the motion that administration is recommending is to complete second and third readings, and then I can continue with the process of getting everything in order.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments in regards to this? Seeing none, can I get a motion that we complete the second reading for bylaw alt 4-26? Council Morrison.
Council moves to complete the second reading of bylaw ALT 4-26 refinance bylaw.
All those in favor? So carried unanimous. You want to do the second part of that one?
Council moves to complete the third reading of bylaw ALT 4-26 refinancing bylaw.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? So carried unanimous.
Before we move on, there's something.
You need to make a motion to extend a meeting, that is correct, yes.
Sorry, I forgot to make this motion after our break. I'd like to move that council approve us extending our regular meeting time, which would normally have ended tonight at 8, and extend that to 10 p.m.
2200. All those in favor of that, extending the meeting until 2200 hours? So carried unanimous. Okay, bylaw 03-26, Riverview Area Structure Plan, first reading and public hearing date.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is coming back to you because when the Riverview Area Structure Plan was passed, 0126, there'd been 4 versions of the Schedule A submitted. In error, I attached the 3rd version. The 4th version has more information on the stormwater management for the development. and there is a summary table explaining the changes between the third version and the fourth version. So I respectfully request that council give first reading to bylaw 0326 and schedule a public hearing for August 25th.
Questions? So the only amendment to this is the more information on the stormwater, is that correct? Stormwater, I read it, I just can't remember the name.
Yeah, there's a table. The area structure plan area has increased by 0.18 of a hectare. Ownership was revised, municipal parcel was added. There are a list of differences between the two schedules, but the primary one is a significant servicing enhancement and system redundancy has been added. Major redesign of the stormwater servicing approach. Enhanced environmental treatment option introduced. New stormwater management criteria has been established. So it's a more detailed schedule for the engineering side of the development.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Barak.
I guess for me, I want more time to take a look at this. It's just a large agenda package that we got for this meeting. And something like this here, I'd be more comfortable if we had more time to just go through everything to see exactly what the differences are and where everything's at. That's just more of a comment, I guess.
Okay, thanks. I think tonight all we're looking at kind of just first reading and then setting a public hearing, so. I'm sorry? Yeah, exactly, yeah. Council Morrison.
For my own clarity, we've already passed this, but because there was an addition to the actual area structure plan, this has already been passed, but we're now reopening the issue because of a change in the stormwater servicing.
So what is currently happened, there is an area structure plan that has been passed. There's a bylaw, 0126. Riverview area structure plan exists. They are going to go ahead with their subdivision because it doesn't change anything. This just provides council with more information going forward. If you choose not to pass this bylaw, the existing bylaw exists. This just puts more information into the area structure plan and updates the bylaw further.
So,
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just going to say that when council made the decision, when they reviewed the original area structure plan, you based it on the information that you had. The Municipal Government Act allows us to make some changes to the bylaw, but usually clerical. So we can't change anything in a bylaw that is considered a material change. These changes coming forward to you are material changes. This is information you did not have prior. So in order to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's with the MGA, you have to repass this bylaw. So the previous bylaw will be rescinded and this new bylaw would come into effect. Again, as Ms. Gingell said, if you choose not to pass this bylaw, the original bylaw that you passed, the 126, PLU 126, remains in effect. And so it doesn't change anything, but you have more information now.
for clarity, if we were to turn around today and say, we don't want to discuss this, we don't want to bring in a bylaw, the original bylaw is there, and now the developer can go ahead with that plan and not put in a redesign of the stormwater system. So in actuality, this is a better deal for our community. Is that, am I reading this correctly or?
That is correct. Yes, we're getting more information. We're getting a more detailed stormwater management plan. There's additional redundancy built into the servicing with the new schedule. So it's a better, more detailed plan of what they're going to do.
So I don't
If I may, this may help. On occasion, this occurs where there's been maybe an error on our part, as Sue said, basically in the information that we attached into the area structure plan and the bylaw. But the reality is, council had we had the public hearing, and we had a few meetings where council had the opportunity to debate and discuss this project and approve the project. So basically, the project that it was and the area structure plan is still remains basically intact in terms of the premise of what the development is. There's just more detail involved, and so the original decision that council made essentially stands. This is just simply providing additional detail that was absent when you made that decision at the time. Though it's material in nature, it's still considered in many cases an administrative housekeeping item. It doesn't change the original premise of the development itself in terms of what the concept is. It's just simply more detail from an engineering perspective. And so, though it's material, it's not necessarily changing what this development is in any case and what council decided on.
The reason I'm bringing it forward as a new bylaw is I could have done it as an amendment, but all the red lines in the existing bylaw and all the new verbiage tucked into the sentences and everything would have made it very confusing to read. This gives us a tidier document. So this is more administrative, just to make it tidy and easy to read.
I understand that it's more administrative, and I appreciate that. Going through this way and opening up the public hearing again opens up some old wounds.
And I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
My opinion is again, those conversations have been had with the public. Again, if I may, this is again an administrative in nature correction to data that was in the original discussion piece, but in my opinion, not material enough to change the premise of what the development is or what was intended or what was basically shared with the public. It's engineering detail, not necessarily a change in what the development is itself. That is still intact and still, I think, would test the would stand the test of the open house rules, or basically the public hearing rules.
Unfortunately, Part 17 of the MGA says any land use bylaw requires a bylaw to amend it. Any Part 17 bylaw requires public hearing. Sorry? Even as an amendment to the bylaw, though, it would still require wouldn't it?
If I may, we'll table this discussion.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. I think that this one should be tabled so that administration gets it together. This is a really sensitive issue, in my opinion, for our community, and one that, if it is administrative in nature, then it doesn't need to be a wound that needs to be opened.
I agree.
Just my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I need a motion to table that, Your Honor.
You betcha. I was just about to ask for it. Yeah, sure.
I move that we table, somebody give that to me really quick. Make me put glasses on. I move that council table first reading of bylaw PLU 03-26 Riverside Area Structure Plan. Thank you.
Any questions? All those in favor? So carried unanimous. This is tabled. Moving on to correspondence. Oh, no, sorry, committee reports. I'll go first. I only had two since the last council meeting. First one was a team meeting with Edmonton Global. They have some new senior management people on their team, and they brought forward their business plan. And the second one is yesterday we met with Aero Utilities. Just kind of a meet and greet, I guess, and better transparency and communication between them and us. And we found out some information that the previous team had installed a bypass in our pump house that Aero Utilities has caused Aero Utilities some issues that we need to correct. So that's on the books, or going to be on the books in the next year or so for us to take care of that. So that's it for me. Are you ready? Oh, excellent.
I just actually have one. I attended Pioneer Days, serving hot dogs with Councillor Longstaff, Councillor Barak, and Councillor Curie.
Thank you, Councillor Curry.
I did a phone interview with Councillor Burak here back in early July with CBC Radio. Oh, June 26th. Councillor Burak and I, we did the Pioneer Days bike parade, and we would have won best bikes if there was such a contest. And then I also helped with the Pioneer Days hot dog sale at the museum. And then yesterday with Mayor Henderson and with Tim, met with the few folks from Aero Utilities and had those discussions that Mayor Henderson mentioned.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Longstaff.
Sorry, Chris, I actually forgot something when I sent you my report. Yeah, so I think it was the 11th, I helped out with Pioneer Days with the barbecue. And on the 25th, I had a committee meeting with the Gibbons Fire Department and a tour of the hall, since I haven't had one in quite a while.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Barak.
June 26th was an interview with CBC in regards to the viability vote. And then June 29th was a follow-up interview with CBC from the viability vote. July 10th, Councillor Curry and myself donned on our best bicycles and went to the parade. And then on July 11th, with other fellow councillors, we did the Pioneer Days and the barbecue.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Morrison.
On the 26th of June, I did interviews with CBC Global and CTV, and that's all I did for a whole month. That was it.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Simonowitz.
Well, it's been a busy July for the commissions. On June 29th, I attended the Water Commission meeting in Redwater. On July the 3rd, Water Commission Subcommittee meeting in Morinville. July the 9th, Rose Ridge Commission meeting in Morinville. Just want to say a couple of things about Rose Ridge and the recycling program. We are currently, our recycling is done by GFL every second week. There's another company, I did dig it out, Circular Material Alberta is the outfit, and they wanted us to go with that. They wanted us to participate in phase one. Phase one is over, so now it's phase two. So we kind of lost out on phase one, unfortunately. Just doing a little. People seem to like Cape Breton, Mass, so I applied that principle here. And we lost out on about $70,000 because currently we're paying GFL for 18 months. We paid them when we didn't really need to, but you know, it's water under the bridge. So there's circular materials is implementing by October phase 2, so we need to be part of that if we want to be, kind of thing. It's a total recycling program. It's unfortunately doesn't involve GFL anymore, but we are compensated by what gets recycled, and we need to work out a scope of work plan with them, I guess. And so hopefully we don't miss out on that. So we really now are going to deal with Rose Ridge for waste and the biodegradable materials, and if we do the recycling program, which I would recommend personally, then we have to go with circular material. It's totally funded by the Alberta government. Anyways, so that was July the 15th. Again, there was a Water Commission meeting. It was a virtual interview meeting with the people that did the strategic planning workshop, and then yesterday spent the day and in Bon Accord at the Water Commission Strategic Planning Workshop, which, you know, it's still in a draft mode. When it's final, you'll get it off their website. And that's it. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Councillor Saint Germain,
Make a motion to accept as information.
all those in favor? So carried unanimous. Correspondence, just one letter from the Minister, Mr. Williams, in regards to he follow up to his telephone call he made with me in regards to the results of the vote. He's indicated that in the letter that he will not overturn the decision to remain a town, and he is currently considering whether or not to issue orders of directive to the town that will contain actions the town will be required to complete. At this time, he has not indicated one way or the other whether or not he's going to issue those reports. And that is it. If I could get a motion to accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Longstaff. Councillor Curry.
I move to accept correspondence as information.
Excellent, thank you. Do you guys need a recess before we go to closed session?
Can we please have a vote on that motion first, though?
Yeah, let's have I did that the last time too. Can I have all those in favor? So carried unanimous. When we go into closed session, we have to say for what reason in the sections before we enter closed session. So we do before we go in.
Because if you take a break after you leave,
You have to come out.
after you go to closed session,
You have to come
and then I
back
have to
out.
record when everybody leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long do you need? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? 1941, 10-minute recess. Getting back to order. Can I get a motion to enter closed sessions for what's listed? Do you want to take care of it, Mr. Longstaff?
I move that we move into closed session, for section 16.1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 and 6, under the Access to Information Act, sections 19, 28, 29, 30, also 20, 26, 28, 32, and 20. I should cover them all.
All those in favor? So carried. Now in closed session. No, I don't kid about food, man.
Says this guy who's eating popcorn doesn't believe us.
Thank you.